Very exciting for me to talk to Deepa Kunapuli, who's the Director of Digital Strategies at Sierra Club, today to talk about the environment and voting. Thank you, Deepa, for joining to talk. Of course, there's so much going on right now, politically, environmentally, socially. What do you see as the intersection between the environment and the kind of socio-political upheavals we're experiencing?
Yeah, great question. So the way that I explain this to my team, because we talk about this stuff every day, is we're in a trifecta of pandemics. So we have COVID-19, we have climate change, and systemic racism. And all of these pandemics are disproportionately affecting Black and Brown communities. So I think the most important thing first, right, is to just start with the acknowledgement that racism is killing our planet. And so one of my colleagues and friends, Hop Hopkins at the Sierra Club, actually wrote very extensively about this, and this great analogy that you can't have climate change without sacrifice zones, and you can't have sacrifice zones without disposable people, and you can't have disposable people without racism. So if you think about it that way, if that's our frame for thinking about the environment, everything that's happening in the world, if we can all agree that dismantling racism and white supremacy is fundamental to our work, I think we're in a great place.
Maybe you can elaborate on what the definition of sacrifice zones are, and for those of us who may not be as experienced in this field, like how does climate change affect people of color differently?
So the idea of a sacrifice zone is, think about any major city, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. There are places where you and your friends just know the air is dirty, the water isn't clean. Flint, Michigan is a great example. Those sacrifice zones are not an accident. Those are communities where Black and Brown people are living in higher proportions. There are government regulations and things that our government has done to make those community sacrifice zones, right? So I think just even thinking about your local neighborhood and the places that you frequent and the places that you don't go, ask yourself questions about, like, why is the road over there have more potholes? And that's a Midwestern thing, is we're always talking about potholes, but why is the road over there have more potholes than the road over here on the north side of Chicago, right? So all of these things are connected. And I think once you start to see that, you'll see it everywhere.
A friend of mine is running for city council here, and she's been talking a lot, Nikki Rahman, she's been talking a lot about how LA has the biggest urban drilling, oil drilling in the country, and that it's completely located in like 100% of it is located in Black and Brown neighborhoods, and of course polluting the air, water, soil in those areas. And it was surprising in our own city. I'd never even thought of oil drilling in a city. So it is really, you really understand the kind of interconnectedness between all of these worlds, and you explained it so well. So how is the Sierra Club engaging voters during this time?
So what we're doing right now is a lot of work online. We're talking to voters in key states and calling them, sending letters, texting them, and just getting them excited about the election, making sure they have a plan to vote, and really kind of explaining the things that you and I are talking about in ways that folks can understand, and then take it back to their kitchen table and have a conversation with their parents or their friends or their roommates, because I think you know very well that so much of how we actually change hearts and minds is really just through talking and having conversations.
And the larger question of, climate scientists are talking about that we have like 10 years to kind of right the ship. What are the important first steps on a large scale, and also what are individual things that we can each take part in?
So that statistic came from a report, I think released in 2018 by the United Nations, and said we have like 12 years to limit global temperature rise. And that's basically making sure that the Earth's average temperature doesn't continue to increase. And so when I started researching this and understanding what that meant for the poles, for everybody in the middle, what I realized is like there's actually no getting back on track. So at this point, it's about how do we prevent future harm, so harm reduction strategies. It's why we have to A, tackle the climate crisis, and B, we have to move beyond fossil fuels. So that's coal, oil, and gas, and into renewable energy. So we're seeing, right, the effects of climate change right now with everything happening in California with the fires, the hurricanes, in Louisiana and Texas, the tropical storms in the Midwest, and so much more to come, as we know. So, to answer that also from the perspective of elections and like, what can I do right now? Why does this matter at the ballot box? It feels really kind of abstract for people. It's because when we elect climate champions, when we elect people who actually care about local policy that keeps those communities safe, gets them access to clean air, clean water, safe communities to live in, that's the way to actually shift the system. So elections are one way to influence the world, right? And it's something you can do immediately. And so I know a lot of people right now want to know, what can I do? And I would say, do your research, find the candidates that believe in the same things that you do, and go vote for them.
Thank you, like, for devoting your life to this and for helping us understand how we can be part of the solution.